Miami. Miami, 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 Miami. It feels like Miami.
Welcome to an episode of the Heat Beat Podcast. I am your disheveled voice host, Giancarlo Navas. And with me today is the professional screw-up, MHB alum, co-host of the Five on the Floor podcast on 5 Reasons Sports, and co-host on Locked On Heat, Alex Toledo.
What's up? Good to be back.
My voice is shot, chat. I got back from San Francisco on a red eye yesterday for a wedding. My beautiful friends, Ty and Lachlan, got married. It was a wonderful ceremony. The night before, I watched Game 6 at a bar, and I yelled so loud. And I said, "Jimmy Butler, you motherfuckers," as I stood on a bar stool. And I pointed at people. So I had the guts at the bar. I went to another bar for Game 7, which was infested with Celtic fans. It was disgusting. And Alex, we're going to talk about a lot of things. I want to tell you, I wish you had seen the face of those Celtic fans when that Jimmy shot went up. I have never seen pure fear in human beings like that in my life.
Sounds like a fun experience, man. I mean, look, that night I think was magical for all Heat fans, no matter where you were. But that actually sounds particularly fun because it could have gone so bad. It could have gone so bad if Jimmy didn't have that game. And you got to see that, before it all came crashing down. And we had that huge, it was such a nice glimmer of hope and glimmer of the Heat are going to be right back in the finals. So I'm glad you had that experience, man. I know Game 6 was so much fun for everybody, including myself. I got to just watch at home, which is definitely a different experience than covering the games in person for me. So it was good to enjoy that and not have to cover it.
As the season, as the shot goes up, I don't want to litigate whether he should have done or whatever. Everybody said their stupid take on that. When that game ended, and after the, by the way, it was Alex, most devastating Heat loss for me since I think ever, only following the 2011 finals.
That's a hot take, man.
People say the 05 one with Dwayne. I don't know. I guess they were so young, or Dwayne was so young that you just knew that, or at least it felt. And we were younger too. We were young and naive, so maybe it felt to us, or at least to me, like, yeah, we have Wade and Shaq. We'll get back here. With this team, I think it feels like, we're going to talk about the season as a whole or anything, but it was gutting because you knew that if they were healthy, this wouldn't have been so close. And you knew if they were healthy, they would be playing the Warriors, the two most dominant teams of this new basketball era, facing each other and all the storylines for Heat fans. So it was just gutting for me, man. And I'm still not totally over it. I haven't listened to I have not consumed sports coverage. I haven't turned on. I love the low post and I love the dunker spot. I can't. I'm not on Twitter much. I like tweet memes and shit, and I'll send stuff to our group chat. But I'm pretty fucking destroyed.
I feel you, man. Like I would have to think about it when comparing to I would not compare it to 2011.
That's the worst. That was because that shit was was that bad. That shit was embarrassing.
Yeah, and it was so it was like some Marvel parallel universe shit where it's like you'd never seen LeBron before or since play to such a low level, and statistically you just go right back to whatever it was, 17.7 points per game, literally unheard of from LeBron in a playoff series before or since.
And that 17 was lifted insane by his game 1. That was good because the rest of it was awful.
Yeah, and then you had that coming after 2 rounds where he just looked like one of the best players of all time, destroyed the Celtics, destroyed the Bulls, had Heat fans feeling great, like we were going to march towards the title. And then, boom, you just get embarrassed on a national stage while D-Wade is carrying you, rob D-Wade of another title, of another finals MVP, and now I'm getting mad about it again. And that's just to say that, this series doesn't compare, man. And I know, I get it. I really have always hated the Celtics. I've always hated the Celtics. So, I get that part, losing to the Celtics like that. And in game 7 at home, I think the worst part about it is just getting away from what happened in game 7. The fact that they lost 3 games in a row at home in the playoffs. Like, they were undefeated through game 1 of this series. They lost game 2, lost game 5, lost game 7. And 2 of those were blowouts. Just the fact that it ended that way, we know the context. We know how banged up these guys were. It's not as simple as that. But the fact that it ended that way after how dominant they were at home was just the most flabbergasting part to me, because I was already going into like I went to the series saying Heat in 7. And after game 5 happened, I was kind of like, let's see if they can pull off a miracle in game 6. But if they do that, I had them winning game 7, even with the injury stuff. So I was definitely, I get the devastation stuff. And in the, I said this on 5 on the floor. I was there with Brady in the moment when Jimmy took that shot. Let's not get into that. When Jimmy took that shot, I believed right in that moment, even though I get it, right? Like, you had Al backpedaling, you didn't have anybody in the back line. Jimmy could have tied the game, but he had already played the whole game, was carrying them, put the team on his back. He wanted
the whole game too. Bam had played almost the whole game.
Jimmy and they really, I don't know if they should have been in that game towards the end like that, the way they were. And so I get why people were frustrated with that shot, because it's like, you did all that work to come back in a game where it looked like it was over a few minutes before, and then you just kind of
gave up.
Shot. That's not high percentage, but I get it, because in the moment he just wanted to go for the kill, right? I think that was the most important thing, and all his teammates and Spo have backed him since.
I felt that was going in. It felt like destiny. It felt like destiny. Smeeza wants to know, at what age did Alex stop cutting out pages from Slam Magazine to hang up on the wall?
High school. I think just before high school. These are all old.
It was hard for everything that you said, and just it was the Celtics. It was that Celtic team. Giving a team revenge feels bad. And I don't know, man.
I'm glad they pulled off game 6. I'm glad they didn't go outside, because it looked like they could have gone out a little sad in game 7 there. They went
out with a fucking fight, man.
Exactly. So that's the stuff that's like, they ended up being the team that I thought they were, as far as like their character, and not just going out that way. And again, obviously they blew a lot of free throws. They blew a lot of threes, just really frustrating stuff. So I'm not trying to excuse them. They could have won. And, maybe you could say they should have won despite all the injuries, despite being banged up. I look, I've been covering this team game for game for 3 seasons now, and the feeling I got in the playoffs, covering the conference finals, and I got it around game 5 of the Sixers series too. It took me right back to the kind of like those LeBron days where like the pressure's on, because I just want to beat these teams. And it's like that the objectivity really gets put to the line there.
That shit gets blurred.
Like, we're still talking about the team and analyzing what's good, what's going well, what's going wrong. We're trying to be fair about it. But at the same time, like, I really, really, really want them to win. I don't want to see the Sixers happy. Don't want to see the Celtics happy. It's always been that way. I still haven't gotten that part out of me. Like, when the game ended and all that stuff happened, with the trophies and the presentation, I did not stick around for that.
Oh, I left the bar immediately. I walked out to call my Uber of that San Francisco bar. Shout out to Sam Esfandiari.
And I refused to cover the Celtics post game after that. Like, I didn't even. I just went straight to the Heat locker room, and I mean, not locker room, the Heat media room, to bask in the sadness. But I'm proud of the team, man. That's the difference. I'm really proud of this team.
They fought, and I don't want this. I've said this a lot. This is not an organization that celebrates conference title trophies, that celebrates conference title appearances. They're not the Clippers, and they're not the
Larry
Blazers.
Bird trophies.
Yeah, they're not the Clippers and the Blazers. You know what I mean? They celebrate, winning titles. They celebrate, parades and gold plating and champagne. I don't think that anybody's saying this season was a waste or bad. I know Kyle said that.
Except Kyle, yeah.
People took that a little out of context. Kyle came here to win a title, and Kyle got hurt and was not the player that I think he felt he could be. And a lot of things happened, right? So these guys, had expectations of winning a title, and they were within a game of the finals. And I think if they had made the finals, I was joking, and all in San Francisco, if they make the finals, it's Warriors in 5, because they're just they're gutted. You know what I mean? They're a walking hospital. So they had expectations to win a title, but they were the fucking 1 seed, and they came within a shot of making the finals. And once you're in the finals, I think we've seen anything can happen. right? Whatever everybody says, that shit goes out the window. Once you're there,
as long as you have your guys playing, right? And I think that would have been the biggest difference between them advancing to the finals this year compared to what happened in the bubble. Because, like, obviously this team was already banged up top to bottom, but Tyler would have been playing. He said it yesterday at the press conference, exit interviews, and your guys would have been out there. You had the 1 seed. You wouldn't have had home court versus the Warriors because of that tiebreaker. But like, this is the year, right? I think from their perspective, like, this was the year for them to try to do it again, right? Like, you got the favorable matchups relative to the rest of the conference. The East was really tough this year compared to how it's been the past few years, right? Like, the East was the superior conference. They got the favorable matchups. They got the toughest one at the end. Almost got through it despite everything. And I like, some people on Heat Twitter want to call this type of mentality toxic positivity. I just think, like, we got to have perspective on these things, man. The Jimmy build, my whole thing, the Jimmy Bam build, that this era has been a complete success so far.
It works. They were with a shot. If that shot goes in, what you know what I mean? So it's like,
would have been an all-time moment, man. Would have been an all-time moment.
That moment more than
but it's
any.
Also, like, it's kind of also the crescendo of all the the crunch time stuff that was going on throughout the regular season and other regular seasons in the past, where it's like Jimmy will take shots that not everybody wants, but you also, that's kind of what comes with
he was a good
guy like Jimmy
in the playoffs.
Oh yeah, no, I'm with you, man. That's why it's like I'm good with Jimmy taking jumpers the way he was throughout the playoffs. They leave him wide open. He's got to make him pay, and he did at times. He either have a game where he hit 0 threes or between 2 and 4. Like, I feel like so that's how it was. But even in that game, in that moment, I don't feel like he had that 3 going. It was kind of an awkward attempt. Regardless, in that moment, I believed, man. I really believed. It felt like we were headed for, like, a magical moment in that time. Maybe that's just, the sports fan in me coming back, being naive, but they were really putting together a run. And that's what basketball is. It's a game of runs. They had the momentum. They were at home. Despite not hitting the threes, they fought right back into. Jimmy and Bam clawed back. And then Kyle had a nice fourth quarter. So close, man. So close.
It's tough. And you can't help but think of the Ray Allen shot. And it so clearly became there's winning and there's misery, the famous Pat Riley quote, right? Because with the Ray shot, you get this miracle 3 that really cements what is one of the most legendary seasons and moments in the history of basketball. Being able to top that 33 game win streak and that LeBron team with the title and back to back, right? Just everything about that was like perfect. And on the other side, you have this year, this little engine that could, this We Believe Heat team that got the 1 seed, didn't get respect any round of the playoffs, not even against the fucking Hawks. And they were within a shot of just fucking shutting every doubter up. And it was just so clear of that quote, there's winning and there's misery.
I think the bubble fluke stuff, all that stuff has already been clearly disproved.
Yeah.
I think it's disproved regardless.
Oh, no, like, they answered Jimmy and Bam. At least Jimmy. Maybe Bam didn't do enough for some people, but in an elimination game with your season on the line, played.
Bam was so good, man. Bam was so good.
And his shot selection wasn't even good. His shot selection sucked. There's a lot of turnaround fadeaways and shit that I was like, what are you doing?
Stuff with Heat fans and him turning into this alpha scorer, like, he did it for 2 games in this series. And I think, oh man, I can't concentrate now. No, but he did it for 2 games in this series. And I think going into this series, the way he had looked, right, where they hadn't necessarily gotten his shot attempts up or anything like that. If I would have told you Bam has 2 gigantic scoring games, you probably say you win. You probably say that's all you need from him, as long as the other games he's playing good enough. And maybe that's the argument to be had, right? Because I'm not here to litigate the whole Bam thing, but I think people are frustrated.
But
exactly. We don't need to. But what I'm saying is, like, it was so up and down for him. But man,
he had to be better in the aggregate. But in Game 7, he, when they needed it most, he played his best basketball.
They only needed him to be better in those other games, I think, because the other guys just didn't come through. And then in the 3 games where Jimmy was not looking like himself, it's like, well, everything else is failing. Come on, Bam, step up. It's like, can he be that every night? I don't know. But he did it for 2 times. I mean, he did it twice in this series versus the best defense in the league, where there's not really many holes for him to go at. So, I think we should give Bam some love after what he did, especially in Game 7.
couple things from that Game 7, and we're going to move on to other things and Kyle and their future and everything. You know, they opted to go really, really, really small at the end of that game. And it's funny because today the conversation...
I had no choice, kind of.
Huh?
They really had no choice with PJ's situation.
So what do we know? Did PJ not play because of health or because of just he was just cramping the space to a point that it became untenable?
He only played 17 total minutes.
No, I know, but like, what did he did? I did not see any quotes. Did Spo give any clarification as to if that was a basketball decision or a PJ health decision?
I'm pretty sure he said something about it being a health decision because I mean PJ in I think in every other game this playoffs has played starter minutes or more. So I mean, look, everything from the past couple of games of the series is a little bit of a blur to me because he has such a roller coaster. But man, PJ was not right, and I think they would have gone back to PJ if he was right. I don't think the Oladipo thing was something like he's just the clear cut better option.
Well, I mean, I thought downsizing was smart because you give Robert less places to hide, which was the thing with PJ where, they were just not guarding him, and PJ in the corner made that help really easy, as opposed to Oladipo, who's a ball handler, so you're just constantly running pick and rolls, whether it's on or off ball or Jimmy as a screener. So it just gets him in more actions and away from what he wants to do, and he gets more attacked in space in that way, which I thought is what Miami did, and it didn't hurt their rebounding, which I think is the important part. And I just thought it was interesting because the conversations have been, well, we need a 4 to play next to Bam. Well, A, you have one, and B, when rubber hit the road and the season was at the brink, they went Depot, Jimmy at the 4, Max and Kyle with Bam, right? So that was the most success. Really, their offense, when Robert Williams has played, that's the best their offense has looked. And they held up defensively. So for all that talk about playing
It's a terrible start, man. They just really shot themselves in the foot with that first quarter.
That a lot,
I feel like, but they were such a good first quarter team throughout the season. And then in the playoffs, we're a dominant third quarter team. And I feel like in this Celtics series, everything that we've known about the Heat in the regular season and the rest of the playoffs, it's just not been the same. Like the Celtics, this is to give them credit as much as I hate to do that. Like they just did a really good job making things uncomfortable every night for the Heat, despite, obviously there was adjustments along the way. It wasn't the same game played every time. They took the Heat out of their process and I think made the Heat, really uncomfortable, especially with guys being so banged up. Like it just forced guys and forced the team to, I think, do stuff that they don't necessarily always want to do. And look, I haven't looked at the final numbers, but when I was working on that article after game 5, after game 4, at that point in the series, the Celtics were forcing the Heat into just way more way more mid-range attempts. And I think that ended up holding out for, staying steady for the last 3 games as well. And I think that was just kind of the biggest thing, right? Like they got the Heat to take less shots at the rim, fewer threes. The past couple of games, the Heat ended up taking more than they did throughout the rest of the series. But they took the Heat out of their game, which is Jimmy barreling to the line. Like I think Jimmy was awesome when he was, and those other games when he was banged up, like they had nothing else to go to. The threes were not falling. It ended up we never got the progression to the mean. And then guys could not hit shots in the in-between area, consistently enough. And that's kind of the shots that the Celtics force you into. They force you into way more jumpers, and they weren't falling. So it's like you need more from you need Jimmy and Bam to be those big points per game type of guys for you when they weren't that for you in the regular season. So they basically made the Heat switch their blueprint up.
Ime Udoka made a bet. He bet that Miami's bad lower body was not going to be able to get lift on the jump shots. Guys like Max, guys like Kyle, guys like Tyler, like they made a bet. And those guys were not going to shoot well enough because of how banged up they are, particularly with lower body injuries. So their jumpers were short. And I think it's almost fitting that Jimmy's three-pointer was short. It was on tired, heavy legs. And Ime Udoka won that bet. And it was tested until the very fucking end. Because Horford was sagging back, was not playing up at him to drive him off the 3 line. So,
can I talk about a frustration I had? The one thing that bothered me with Jimmy this whole playoff series. It's funny that you talk about how it's the shot being flat and now it's kind of thematic of the context of the team and all that. The other thing was the Jimmy Horford matchup. I thought the whole series there was plenty of times, and I'm not talking down on
That's
Jimmy or
always
anything
been
like
tough
that.
for him.
I think that's a guy that he can turn the corner on. Like, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong there. I think that's a guy who can easily turn the corner on. I'm not even talking about the game-winning play here because, I think he probably could have got to the rim too. Maybe Jaylen Brown would have rotated. He would have had to pass it out, and it's Oladipo taking a three for the win instead. So, obvious, maybe that's not what you want.
His knee's not right.
On the line.
That knee is not right. And for him to make a play over the most athletic guy on the floor and a really good – that's tough. I don't blame him. But the Celtics bet that they were going to overhelp off shooters because that's not who they've been. They were helping everywhere off shooters. They were going really, really under. They were dropping really, really deep. And they were not letting Miami – they were sending 2 at every bam roll. They had no answer for Jimmy. The best defense in the league had no solution for Jimmy Butler. Before anybody says shit, he carved them up. And they tried everything.
There's only one guy that we saw consistently get bullied by Jimmy in this series, and that was Derek White. I mean, Pritchard is different, but that was like
that wasn't fair.
That's
not a fair fight.
Yeah, that came and went. We barely saw him when it really mattered. But outside of Derek White, there wasn't somebody who I think he was consistently trying to get the matchup on and bully, and he still was able to put up that type of production and step up his game versus that defense, knowing that
giving up the
everything else is not working. They know that they're gonna go, that the Heat are gonna go to Jimmy when everything else is, not working, and still.
They did a good job of not kind of giving him the matchups he super duper wanted for a lot of that series. Sometimes it gets difficult, but when they could, they would pre-switch, they'd emergency scramble, all that stuff. Regardless, obviously just came up short. All that credit to the Celtics and everything they bet on.
Would you say they were the better defense?
I mean,
throughout the series,
it's hard to judge. I mean, both teams were really fucked up. I did think Boston's guys that were hurt looked better than Miami's guys that were hurt physically. So it's hard to judge. I think I thought Miami had to play.
The Celtics were clearly the better offense, so that's why I asked.
The Miami had to play too many guys that shouldn't be out there, like Dedmon, like Duncan, and they had to hide with the zone and stuff. I think that zone was so bad. I didn't like them going to it. I like when they go to the zone as a weapon, not as like out of fear. And I thought the Celtics solved that pretty quickly. They're just too
overly reminiscent of some of these other seasons where they would do that when they would have too many of the, their subpar defenders on the floor. It's like, it's not my favorite thing, especially when your season's on the line.
It works against a team like the Lakers, right? Because you're just like, okay, like LeBron's gonna do the thing, and let's just not give him a switch or whatever. Boston's just too, I did think that the bet to make Tatum a passer and a playmaker. I don't think Tatum has answered any questions about that. I think that they almost lost that series because I don't think he was good enough.
I think he's got it a lot better.
He's better.
He's not elite, but he worked it out. I think Jaylen is the one that comes out with way more questions. Like, just watching those games, Jaylen Brown cannot do anything against good help defense. I think that's why I was frustrated when they would concede the Gabe matchup to Jaylen, because it's like Jaylen was just always going to go for the jumper, and I think they had most success. And look, I love Gabe and his defense, how he gets up into guys, but if you're not forcing him into the lane, into the help defense, he's just going to rise up and shoot over Gabe. That size advantage, that's what he wants to do. Whereas once you send him into the help, he's going to fumble that ball, man. Like, he really cannot. He does not have counters. He does not have dribble counters. Right? Like, whereas Tatum is, I think, more creative and is a quicker passer, even though he's not elite.
He was turning the ball over too much, and I think Miami was really winning that a lot. Sorrell 1977, first time chatter, says Miami needs a true center to stretch and block shots to allow Bam to develop his offensive game and defend the perimeter more. Yeah, I don't agree. I don't really see how another center helps that, except you can play bigger match. If you allow for another center, you let the teams play a little bigger. I think for the most part, Miami has been successful in playing two bigs off the floor.
I think the case is to have that in the toolbox, right?
Because I think but I don't think that this series
a particular type of big to be able to fit, right? Like, I think that the type of guys that people are talking about are not necessarily available. Like, Al Horford would be nice next to Bam in theory, right? Like,
but they had a big who could stretch the floor. they don't need like a center to stretch the floor. They need a 4 that isn't getting helped off of, because the issue with Bam scoring the series, despite what any of you want to say, was he's a roll man big. And when he was rolling, they were dropping on Lowry and they were dropping on Max, who are his, pick and roll buddies. They were dropping on Jimmy, who's his other pick and roll buddy. And those guys were not hitting threes. So they were dropping. And when Bam would roll, they sent Robert Williams off of PJ Tucker to help really early. So Bam's at the nail and he has to stop his roll because he's there by 2 guys. So a center doesn't solve that.
That's what I'm saying. It would have to be a big who you feel really good about as a spacer, right? Like somebody who you feel better about than PJ.
If PJ hit some shots, we're not talking about this. Is my thing.
But I understand like the
it doesn't make sense. It's like people say this, Alex, and I don't understand what the reasoning is, because nobody's told me what on the floor changes if they have a bigger guy. The only thing that really changes is for other guys. It helps Jimmy because you can have a pick and pop guy and you don't always have to have a roll guy, because Miami didn't really have a pick and pop element to their offense. It doesn't help Bam, because whether Bam is the 4 or whether Bam is the 5, he's going to be defended by the same guy, because the other guys aren't going to be screening. You don't want them to. You want Bam to screen. So
I think the case to be made is like you get somebody like I'm gonna keep saying Horford because that's the only name that's just coming to mind right now, because he's somebody who can shoot, defend, is a smart player, et cetera, like a vet big like that. Yeah. How many other guys are there like that? But I think
that helps your defense more than your offense, Alex.
That's what I'm saying. It's like there's times where you feel better about having a bigger guy there when you're having Bam switch out onto the perimeter as much as you do. But really, I think the connection has been made that, and look, I'm not saying I agree with this because I already know what your response is going to be. But since they lost, to this quote unquote big team in the bubble, the Lakers, and then they lost to the Bucks, and now they lost to the Celtics, who start two fives. So I think that's what people are kind of focusing on. And I get like the theory, the idea of it, right? I just don't know what guy that is going to be out there who really makes sense. Like I just think it's kind of something that sounds better in theory than what's actually out there.
Chat wants Christian Wood. You think
I'm Christian good on that.
You think Christian Wood is surviving? People want Bobby Portis. Bobby can't survive defensively.
Stop it, man.
Bobby,
Stop it.
Bobby sucks.
Look, man, like, having another bench front court piece.
You
is
guys,
cool,
hold on, Alex. They don't want Duncan Robinson out there because he gets targeted on defense. What the fuck do you think happens to Bobby Portis? Did you not watch this? Did you not watch them lose? Did you not watch them say, "Hey, let's put Bobby fucking Portis in a drop"? Come on, guys. Come on.
Like I think they're gonna try to explore the market for Duncan. Not to get into the whole trade talk stuff. I'm not, it's not my favorite thing right now.
We'll revisit that later.
That's what I'm saying. No. I'm just saying, like, essentially, if they don't like if they don't see a trade that's out there for Duncan, I don't see that front court piece thing happening, right? Like, it would be cool. Like you and I both agree on like a guy like Harrison Barnes.
Pat Riley's gonna move off. You think Pat and Spo are gonna move off of PJ Tucker? Get the fuck out of here.
No
way.
No.
You guys are delusional. No. Whatever you guys want and what they want are just two different things. Because they fucking love PJ Tucker.
PJ Tucker is made to play for the Heat, and I think he's going to retire with the Heat if I had to bet. I mean, look, there's a chance he would get moved if a top tier player became available. We know the Heat have done things like that before, but I would just be shocked. Like, I think they would more get creative in other ways, bringing in a third team to try to make money work before actually throwing PJ into a trade, for example. But not that we have to get into that. But PJ, I think, is going to retire on the Heat.
Yeah, okay. Like, the Wizards just got rid of Bertans and they want to get Duncan Robinson for Kuzma. Come on. Let's talk about Lowry, because let me tell you something. Y'all are really weird about the Kyle thing. It's like I get messaged, "Gay sucks. You're weird for liking Kyle Lowry." And
after we spent a whole season talking about how they needed a point guard badly,
did they not?
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, people, that's how we. We turn on our guys, man.
But hold on, wait a second,
got
Alex.
Emotional after that loss because he didn't produce enough.
Why did
36 on a bad hamstring? Like, you got to be glad that he was out there, and I think
he shouldn't
be
out there.
Game 6.
Did he look healthy?
Incredible Game 6.
Did he look healthy to anybody? That's my
No,
thing.
he
It's
didn't.
like if you want to criticize his play in a pressure situation where he's healthy, that's fine. I don't have a lot of problems with people going after some of Bam's performances this series. That motherfucker's fine. Kyle clearly, man, how bad is
I
my
think
voice
people
sound?
are paranoid that the injury stuff is going to be something that's
Bro,
recurring
that's
for the
not
rest
his
of the
fault though. It's like you guys, I think the way that fans like approach it, which is like fine, I understand it's tough. And guys, people like frame the body fat thing a lot of times. Don't you remember when Dwayne Wade lost all the weight and he kept getting hurt because he plays a physical brand of basketball, and he told the Heat, "Hey, I need to put on more weight because I get fucking hit a lot and I cannot be flying around at this age." So the weight stuff, Kyle falls a lot, and he has to take contact because he's a physical guy on both ends of the floor. So the idea of like he's too fat or this or that, his fitness is never in question. You know what I mean? He's never like tired on the court like that.
Yeah, I don't really know that was the fitness is what led to the hamstring either. It's just such a weird place to get into.
People like that happens all the time. So I don't really understand fans criticizing him for the bad play when
he was healthy
hurt
throughout the season. Like the only times he was out was for personal reasons, right? How many games did he miss in the season?
He missed more than Jimmy, I think, because of the personal reasons. But
I'm saying due to injury, how many games did he miss during the season?
It's been like a career low. Yeah, I mean,
Just
he's taking care of the
bad
body.
timing, man. It was kind of like a Chris Paul thing with him, right? Like how many times have we compared their games? But as far as like the really bad timing with the injury, right? And like you had him healthy all season. There was so many times, especially in the middle of the year when Jimmy and Bam were out and guys were cycling in and out of the lineup. Kyle was kind of the guy keeping them afloat, and then they got through that whole stretch and were the 1 or the 2 seed, right? So I think Kyle showed you what he's capable of. They jumped. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but they jumped in half court offense. They jumped in transition offense by a good amount from last season to this season. Like, he's not somebody you can hunt. He's somebody who fits perfectly into the type of defensive system they run. They're not stuck with him like some people have put. Like, I think that's a guy you want around. I think that's somebody that you build around. Like, you don't want him to necessarily step up and take 16, 17 shots a game now. I think that's not the role for him anymore. You want him to be the setup guy who will take shots when it's there, when teams are dropping. And I think there was some frustration with that. But again, the legs weren't there.
Yeah, exactly.
Right? So I think, like, I'm looking at it like, yeah, Kyle's a part of this going forward. He's a win now player. You got to build around that. And I think that's where the tough decisions come with the other guys in the roster. But we already know who's set in stone. It's
they
Jimmy,
know
it's
that
Bam,
they're hurt.
Kyle.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, look, I don't think the team is looking at this like a complete failure.
They're not.
I mean, I get what Kyle said as far as waste of a year because they all are gunning for titles. I get it. But, I think after some time off, they're going to have a different tone about it next season. I just think it sucks that, it felt like they had everything they needed. And then, right when it came down to it, they had such bad timing with injuries. And I get it. The Celtics weren't 100% healthy either. But it's just unfortunate, man.
It's unfortunate, and I just wanted to bring that up because a lot of people are criticizing his play and saying like he sucks and he's the reason why they lost. Bro, he got hurt. Nobody said that about Goran. You just not attached. You just don't like him. You had a preconceived notion and you don't like him, and he got hurt, and now you're mad because you lost.
Had that reputation coming in of like this guy who folds in the playoffs, and I think that's what kind of people remember. And then you see he has these games where he's not shooting the ball, and it's like, oh god.
He like clearly didn't have lift. Like you saw, I think and then we can end on this. You watched the regular season matchup against the Celtics, and you saw when they tried to do the limiting thing to Bam, and they would drop kind of deep to contain the roll. Kyle's eating that because that's what he's good at. That's why you bring him. But the fact that he didn't have his legs,
they were missing their other drop killer.
Who? Max?
No, Tyler. Okay. I mean, he wasn't a drop killer during the playoffs, but I'm saying like that blueprint they had in the regular season with Kyle and Tyler there, with the team hitting at a much higher percent from three, like it was not the same team playing against the Celtics. And I think the conversation to be had is like whether they should change the blueprint a little bit, not all the way, but like mix it up where you're not so reliant on the threes. And I think Spo was something he keeps emphasizing that is like, oh, we've shown that we can win in other ways, and they won in other ways during the playoffs. But I do feel that they're initial blueprint that they've been running ever since Jimmy has been here is kind of, Jimmy pummeling to the rim, and then the other guys is kind of a perimeter-oriented offense. And I think that's where you can get into the conversation of like, trying to get Bam more involved. Other guys who can create rim pressure for you. They obviously have high hopes for Depot next season. We'll see how that works out. But I think mixing up stuff in the offense where you're not gonna be so reliant on the jumpers to fall when everything matters, right? I think that would be a fair concern.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because that's kind of what it came down to in that offense. Is like any shots taken, not enough made, and the teams were living with it.
Yeah. Okay. So Schmeek says, but he was hurt, but he also wasn't great before he got hurt. All 2 games. Come on, guys.
How many games did he end up playing in the playoffs?
But they'd be the 2.5 games before the injury. So in the first 2 games, the first game, the offense was absolutely fantastic. And I've said a lot of times, I think Kyle's biggest skill is knowing when to not mess with something that's working. He's not going to over dribble. He's not going to take the offense out of the flow that it's in. And their offense looked really good for 2 games. You can argue he didn't look great in the 3rd game. Fine. He didn't play well a half. Okay. Cool. Is that really your argument? Like, I don't get that. But regardless, he didn't look good. Hopefully he can get better and healthy, because I think that everyone's been a little unfair to a guy that's been hurt. Because, again, nobody did this with Gogi, and nobody did this with Bam in the finals when they were clearly hurt and they played like dog shit, and everyone was like hero, warrior. And then when Kyle does it, everybody fucking doesn't like me, so they want to like rub it in and tweet at me all day. And I was like, okay, guys, I get it. You guys don't like me and Kyle.
So you're just on here to defend yourself.
Huh?
You're just on here to defend yourself. And
people think I care about Twitter. I'm like, okay, I just go to I was in San Francisco with my friends. I don't really care about you guys.
That's a very Sedano move.
Me, Sedano? I learned from the best, baby. I love my audience.
Shout out Sedano, man.
I love my audience, but if you guys, I'll take it. But if you guys are gonna be like mean to me, like, what, you want me to sit there and fucking read it?
Is that your version of what LeBron said after the 2011 finals?
Yeah, fuck y'all's lives. I'm in San Francisco, motherfucker. I'm having West Coast oyster and champagne. What are y'all doing? My voice is so gone. I'm just dead.
Can I ask one question before we go?
So I want to talk about positive things, but yeah.
All right. Quick. The half court offense stuff was a conversation throughout the year. It ended up playing out in different ways throughout the playoffs. When it counted most, how do you feel about the looks they got versus the Celtics? Is it a sustainable offense? What could they have done better? Just anything like that you have in mind. I think comparing how they looked running half court offense versus the Celtics compared to what it looked like during the regular season is kind of what I'm thinking about.
Well, it's kind of tough to say because, the injuries really colored, the way that they had to play. I thought when, against, it never looked great. I think it kind of looked how we thought it would look. And a lot of that I think had to do with the Lowry injury. Lowry not being there for most of the playoffs, didn't look great unless it was Jimmy or bust. The only the times when it looked good, it was Jimmy centric, which makes sense. Toward the end of the series, I thought they got Boston to do the adjustment that you want, which is they played more big and they were putting guys in drop. And if you're the Heat, that's the win that you want because you're just like, we can get our movement shooters to kill that. And they did. And I've tweeted about it and I've tweeted the video. The issue comes that their movement shooters were not hitting. More so than Kyle, Max, and Tyler were just not up to snuff. And Duncan did not play. I thought Duncan deserved probably to play Game 7, but whatever. I get it. I'm not here to litigate that either. But, you needed somebody to attack that space that was given. And the guys who shoot, the main 3 guys, Tyler, Kyle, and Max, just had no legs. And you were not able to punish that adjustment by Boston. And and I think any other person taking a steady diet of threes is a win for Boston. Whether
and then you had guys helping off PJ like you talked about.
So it became a little untenable. I thought all things considered, I thought it was good enough to make the finals. I mean, it was.
I know. Despite all that, it really was.
They were a game away from making the finals.
I think that's the positive. And that how do you feel about that already being a thing that's kind of getting shitted on? Like, guys like me and you talking about, they're a win away from the finals, and like how we're already bringing that up. And
it's loser talk.
The way that we brought up, them getting to the finals before. Like, I don't understand it. Do the results not matter anymore?
It's loser
I
talk.
thought
It's stuff. It's stuff
results
that
over process, baby.
it's stuff that the losers say. But when you also have to understand that only one team gets to be happy at the end of the season. Everybody else, or two teams. If you're the Mavs, you're just happy to be there. Anybody who had expectations, you're not going to be happy.
Before the Heat traded for Jimmy Butler, he had never he never played in the conference finals, right? No, because he wasn't on that team that the Heat eliminated in 2011. He got drafted the season after.
He was on the Nazi Muhammad push team.
He never got to the conference finals. And ever since he's been here, not to simplify things, we've seen him take it to a whole other level in the playoffs and then get to the conference finals, get a shot away from the finals after having already taken him to the finals 2 seasons ago. I just don't understand how that doesn't matter. We've seen him take his game to another level. I think has played at a higher level than we ever could have expected when the Heat traded for him. So it's just this idea that they got to blow everything up and it's going to be a huge disappointment if things, if things come back and they look really similar. I don't know, man. I just want people to have their expectations all right, because I saw all the begging for players stuff happening as soon as they lost. And look, man, I get it. We all cope different ways. I've always had fun with the trade machine, especially, those are the types of articles I would write for Heat Beat back in the day. I get it. Trade machine's fun. But this team was so damn close, man. We're not talking about Goran and Justice and Hassan Whiteside and, a team that had no chance of doing anything. I just want this team to be respected, man.
It's not even respected by the fan base
of all time. That's what I'm saying, man.
Yeah, that kind of sucks.
You got to be the one
but
giving them the respect.
They deserve
because
it. They're
not getting the respect from outsiders.
They were really fucking good.
Teams ever.
They were really, really fucking good. And the Tyler injury really fucked them up because they're really just. I know that he wasn't looking great, and everybody made the jokes. Oh, haha, bad, good for the Heat. Bro, he was such an critical part to their bench offense, and as a guy
the types of shots that the Celtics were allowing are the shots that Tyler thrives in. Even if it would have had to be against top tier defenders, those are the shots that Tyler likes, man.
Yeah, it would have been helpful. Role handler, as a guy who can get to the mid range, and him not being healthy, Caleb's injury, just bad for them. He was playing so well. So, I mean, whatever. It is what it is. Of course.
How do you feel about Depot handling the ball so much?
Not good. I was not a Depot pick and roll guy. I was like, get the ball. Christian and I were like, please, let's let someone else. I thought, by the way, he
did good stuff.
I watched the film. Celtics were blitzing Kyle or they were shading him with the second guy. I thought all things considered, Kyle in pick and roll was generally fine. Especially after that really rough start. They were just missing a fucking ton of shots.
Yeah.
So it is what it is.
But the Depot thing, I was just frustrated less with Depot and more just the fact that Jimmy didn't touch the ball for the last 2-3 minutes of Game 7 until he got that shot. I just couldn't believe it. Why all of a sudden is your game plan is a Depot pick and roll, and he's gonna shoot it. He's gonna shoot it, and he ended up making a couple plays, getting a couple assists. So I'm not trying to bag on him. I've always been a Depot guy. I wanted him here, and I wanted him to be a big part of this team. But, wow, it was just Jimmy Butler is not touching the ball in the Game 7 with your season on the line for the last 2-3 minutes. And I was very frustrated by that part.
My friends that were with me at the bar, they said, man, Victor Oladipo is really going out of his way to make this all about Victor Oladipo.
I like Vic, man. I hope they bring him back.
I do too. He was great.
I like him in the right role.
I love Depot. I was not a Depot guy, and really this season kind of changed. So,
did you see how Spo was hyping him up for next season? As far as I
don't listen to what things Spo says. That man just says lies. That man.
Okay, I wanted to hear your perspective on it. I wanted to see if you thought of it as something to take,
that man
take
is
with
not
a grain
uttered
of salt or take seriously.
Alex, when has that man stood on that podium and said a single truth?
Oh, he says truths all the time. Don't let go of the rope. Keep the main thing. All those things are truths. I don't know what you're talking about.
They're facts. Yeah.
I've already been indicted. Indicted.
Burning. You should have asked. You should have asked one of the newer players if during a press conference if they had heard the burn the boat story yet.
Oh man.
Because we got that great Duncan quote in the playoff bubble run. Chat says my webcam needs a full offseason. Guys, let me tell you something. I'm not going to be here a lot. I'm going to Europe at the end of the month, and I'm there for 3 weeks. So you're going to get a lot of time off from me. I don't know who's going to do free agency, but it ain't going to be me. You're going to get it. You're going to get the coverage, but it ain't me. Probably Tiff for Brian.
Way to hype up your off-season coverage.
Oh my God, it's gonna be great. Nah, listen, people want less of me. Alex, you don't get the formula. I'm the least liked person in this whole operation. The less
I don't get
of
the formula.
me, the better, huh?
I don't
you
get
know
the formula.
You helped build it. So the less of me, the better. I'm just a self-centered asshole who wants my own platform, so I hog it.
No, you're essential to the formula. That's why
I'm essential to
people act like they don't want you around, but then it's
great.
not as fun without poking fun at you. You know,
that's how it works. I'm here to serve. To wrap up, it was a special season. To get that magical performance from Jimmy in Game 6. I know it's gonna hurt because they didn't win, and maybe we'll feel different in the years. But in the moment, it was watching, just one of the greatest games of basketball I've ever seen a person play.
Jimmy is stamped. Jimmy is certified. Can't say shit about him anymore. Like I really don't want to hear
that
it.
Whole,
can't say shit about not being the best player on the championship team. Blah blah
the
blah.
The Bryn Forbes stuff. Superstar. Capital S. I don't want to hear if you don't like the way he's playing against the Kings in December. I don't care. Just
the definition that everybody always goes back to is like, do you step up your game in the playoffs? And he's done it 2 out of 3 seasons now. We know the context of what happened last year. Not to just crank up the excuse machine, but really, like 2 out of 3 years, man, he's turned it up and gone toe to toe with the greats and doing it on like a night to night basis. That's exactly what you want from a superstar. That's what you expect, and that he's their superstar.
Crab says, you're my 6th favorite Heat beater. It's the most I've laughed all afternoon. He was great. I think, a lot of people said that the team let him down. Yeah. In a lot of ways, yeah.
Yeah.
Their bodies betrayed them. Some guys didn't step up. Some guys didn't shoot well. Some guy, I thought Spo was good too. I think Spo coached a really good series. It's just at a certain point, what can you do? But, to get the 1 seed, to hold the 1 seed, not just to get, it's not like they stole the 1 seed. They got it and barely let it go. They went through a stretch of basketball where they lost embarrassing games to the Knicks, the Nets, and had a fight on their sideline. They became the center of the gossip talk and saying how they weren't going to live and this and that. And they convert that into a shot away from getting to play Steph, Draymond, and Clay in the finals.
You got to embarrass Harden and Embiid.
Better come on. That was okay.
And then you got that Game 6 win in Boston that's going to go down. It just would have probably gone down higher if they would have finished it off and taken care of business Game 7. But that Game 6 win, I'm never going to forget that. That was one of my favorite wins of all time.
The shots, the turnaround. And
incredible. Like I would have to go look into it. But that's got to be like top 5, man, as far as like in the moment. The top 5 Heat performances of all time. You knew it as you were
watching it. You knew as you were watching.
It felt like that, that sports magic shit, right? Where it's like this guy is just doing it all. He can't miss.
I'm not gonna lie. That
taking Jordan shots, the mid-range turnarounds, and he just got into his bag, man. It was everything that Heat fans have been asking him to be. It's like, be the scoring guy who's gonna give you the buckets night after night after night. He did it. He did it against the best defense in the league, and he did it throughout the whole playoffs. Except for a couple of games after he had the knee inflammation, man. And I just think like we got to give him his flowers right now. And we also, by the way, got to give Bam his flowers because I think he had a pretty damn good playoffs despite the some of the low scoring games that everybody was mad about. I think Bam was a huge part of that run. And Bam had 2 ginormous games because if it wasn't for that Game 3 and if it wasn't for the way he played in Game 7. They might not have gone to Game 7 without his Game 3 performance. And Game 7 would have been a lot uglier if it wasn't for Bam making all those tough shots and getting things going in the offense. Because Jimmy played awesome. They would have got blown out if it wasn't for Bam playing the way he did.
They, as a collective, they fought.
And he shut down Embiid, the guy that everybody's begging for 5 minutes after they get eliminated. He shut that man down.
Shut him down.
My dead body will they trade Bam for Embiid.
Put everybody in jail. By the end, at the end,
I don't care that he's better.
By the way, Tatum scored a lot of points. I didn't score a lot over Bam. I'll say that. These guys didn't. I'm telling you, they didn't want that matchup. They looked for a lot of matchups on the floor. They didn't look for that one. The Celtics were even trying to manipulate switches before the action, so that they could get Bam out of plays. So he was fantastic. They were fantastic. He deserved Defensive Player of the Year. I don't think you can watch that series.
Run more plays for him, Spo. That's all I ask. Just a little more, so that when it gets to times like this and everything else isn't working, he actually feels a little bit more comfortable doing these things. Even though he did step up with huge scoring games, just get him a little bit more comfortable, man. Get him going in rhythm earlier instead of just running everything for the shooters. Like I get it that it works for a lot, but when those shots aren't falling, like you need that guy to step up. And Heat fans wanted him to be something that I think he wasn't for the past 3 seasons, during the regular season, during the playoffs. It wasn't his role, and then he still stepped it up for those huge games despite that. And I think it would have been a lot easier for him to kind of flip that switch, even though that was I don't think that was like the difference necessarily between them losing Game 7 or anything, because he went off. But I think that flipping that switch that everybody wants him to flip would be a lot easier if they actually had run stuff for him throughout the season and got him going, make him feel comfortable. Like he actually has the opportunity to do that whenever he wants.
Absolutely. So just shout out to this team, this group of guys, I know that, again, some players, when it counted, you didn't trust them. Mechanic, Duncan, a lot down the list. I thought Caleb gave them what they could, but the injuries, Caleb looked tough, although his comments, I hope he can stay. I liked his comments in the exit interview or media, whatever that was. I don't know what they call it now. But, Spo, Pat, everybody. I mean, it was a great season. I think.
How do you feel about some of those comments, by the way, about Max calling himself the best shooter? At the same time, Duncan wasn't speaking. Depot didn't speak. Dedmon didn't speak. Some of the guys who have, like, some of their situations are up in the air. I don't know if that's something
very
wise
take away not to let
it's just something like, it was optional for them. They didn't have to go. They didn't feel like going, and that's it.
I think that was wise. I would, if I were Duncan or those guys, I wouldn't have won. Vic didn't go either, right? I think guys with contract stuff.
Near to PJ.
PJ doesn't have to answer shit to me. That guy was fucking awesome. He doesn't owe anybody anything. The people questioning him because he went to a club after, go fuck yourselves.
And Tyler saying that he thinks he's earned the starting spot.
Tyler had something to go there. Tyler had a media game to play, baby. I respected that. I was like, my man's like, I'm going out here and I'm putting the pressure on him. I don't like him starting, for the record. I think that Max is a better defender, and I think that it just makes the lineups work better. I'm sure that they have to start him now. I think Tyler, they're fucked. I bet you they wouldn't have started him if he didn't say that. And he said that, and now they got him. So let's see how that goes. And
all that looming, with the extension looming after the playoffs he just had. I mean, I think it's a weird that situation is going to be a little weird. Not weird like it's like they're going to be like on opposite sides or anything, or it's going to be. I just don't know how it's going to play out, because it feels like it could go either way right now. Shout out to Deuces.
I think they're going to wait a little bit more to have a feeling. I mean, he's going to stay. It's just for what number they're okay swallowing.
Yeah, for sure. I think the number part is going to be.
He's going to be overpaid. So it's all fun and games until the guy gets a contract.
They need somebody of his caliber, right? Not even caliber. They need somebody with his skill set, and I think they are invested in him getting better, and not necessarily him taking like another huge leap, just like getting incrementally better at some of the the playmaking, getting to the spots. He was really emphasizing putting on strength. They said that he even though he put on strength last offseason, he lost a lot of the weight during the season from all the games playing, and so I think if he could come back stronger, that would be nice too.
I think that helps, especially because he's young. So they were fantastic, and they deserve every bit of praise. And they shouldn't really get your apathy or your obsession or you guys being upset or anything. I mean, they were absolutely unreal this season. And man, thanks to the fans, thanks to the listeners. I know I give you a lot of shit, but we don't do this without you, and I do this. There's not a ton of money in it, but I do it for you guys, and because Alex is laughing because he knows. This is a thankless job. You know that people were giving me shit after the arena saging. Heat fans were. I was like, I did this for you. I don't want to go. You know what it is to drive to the arena in the middle of rush hour? You think I want to do that?
Over there for a bit after getting off work. Like, come on,
bro. I didn't even want to because I didn't think they were gonna win that game. I picked Celtics.
You played
6.
your part,
huh?
You played your part.
Listen. The fans.
The only thing was that you weren't in town for the most important game, so maybe you could, I can hold you accountable for that. But the saging stuff, you played your part, man.
I played my part. You know what I mean? I had a wedding.
Should have been here instead of hanging out.
People on Twitter were really mad at me for that. There was one guy who was mad that I wasn't in Miami. He's like, "How could you not be here?"
That's what I'm saying, man. You were over there spending time in the most gentrified, expensive city in the country and just living it up instead of being over here with
I'm gonna
with your
say
people.
something. I'm gonna say
It's
a
not a
little.
good look.
I'm gonna say a
It's
little
not
bit.
a good look.
I'm gonna say a little bit of a hot take. I don't even know if there's a hot take. I think Southern California is audacious and straight up disrespectful to even claim that they're better than Northern California. Northern California is so much nicer than Southern California. NorCal is gorgeous. SoCal's a fucking dump compared to NorCal. So NorCal is great.
I don't have enough to say on that, but I
fucking
wonder if
love
that's
San
like
Francisco.
somebody who's not from Florida talking about how Lauderdale is nicer than Miami. I think it's kind of a similar parallel.
No,
there.
it's not. I don't think that at all. I don't think that at all. I love the Bay.
You don't think it's a good parallel?
No, because Lauderdale's not even it's not even the same league.
I mean, I've never been to California, so I'm not qualified. But I'm just trying to figure out if that's respectful or not.
Go to NorCal. I drove a lot of the
Like you said, it's a thankless job. I'm not going to NorCal.
It's a thankless job. It's a thankless job, but it'll all be on fire in a couple months. I do have one funny story, and then I'll get out of here. We're driving back. The wedding was in Sacramento. I was driving back to San Francisco, and as we're driving back, the whole sky's fucking blood orange. We're like, is there a fucking fire? We lower the window. I was like, I don't smell anything. I was like, but why is it so fucking orange? The whole sky was orange. Took a video. We turn a corner and it's some fucking neon sign that's lighting all the low clouds orange. So it just looked like the apocalypse. I thought that was funny. But thank you guys for really a wonderful 9th season. It's been nine years doing this. Next year's our 10th year. I know I speak for everybody at Hangover Time and WAP and everything that we do this for y'all. We have so much fun. We laugh every day at dumb shit that we say and the dumb shit you guys tell us. Chat, I wouldn't be here without you. Schmeeks is saying I've only been to LA once and it's overrated. Shit sucks. I'm gonna come out and say it. LeBron pick wrong. But you guys are awesome. 9 years in the books, Alex. Going for 10
Crazy.
next year. We love you guys. I'm glad I got to do this with Troppy Baby. It's been forever.
You waited to bring me on until like right after they get eliminated. It's a sad pod.
Well, you're busy all the time. You're a fucking full-time beat writer, beat reporter, whatever.
Full-time beat writer.
Whatever it is, I don't know. I can't get
I would
Brady.
hardly call myself that at all. I think Brady's a full-time beat writer, not me. Shout out Brady, man.
Crab says, shout out to Brady, aka Paul Wall.
Golden boy.
Paul Wall. Somebody said was it a YouTube comment? What was it?
Yeah.
That Brady looks like Daniel Tice and Paul Wall.
They called him Duncan Booker.
Come on, man. I feel like that's racist calling him Booker.
No, they said that. Man, I gotta be careful now.
Whatever. Regardless, it was funny. Crab says, thank you, G, for teaching us.
You say he looked like Booker if he was white.
I feel that's problematic. Crab says, thank you, G, for teaching us.
How is that problematic?
To laugh at failing in love again. I listen. If you only knew what happened to me today. Shmeeks is saying, "Gee, I need to know if you watch Attack on Titan." I do. It's okay. That's my take. It's an okay show. But yeah, I love you guys. We really got derailed there at the end. Classic Heat Beat. I love you guys. You're fantastic. I hope that you stick with us for another year. Check out all of Alex's work over at 5 on the Floor. And Floor is Yours and all the stuff that he does at 5 Reasons. Shout out to people like Ethan who do great stuff over there. Shout out to David Ramil and to Wes Goldberg who have continued to just do excellent things at Locked On. I love those guys. Huh?
UK Dan,
my homie. We had a drink at Sugar and Brickle. That was fun. A lot of the content creators around Heat, to Jake Pablo. Helped a lot with our graphic stuff. To Casey Bannerman, who you saw the jerseys. Alex, do you have the Jimmy jersey?
I do. I mean, I don't have it in my room right this second, so that's not great. I have it hanging up drying because I wore that jersey during Game 6. I forgot to mention that.
The Jimmy one?
Yes, that magical game happened, and that was the first time I had worn the jersey because I just got it in the mail a couple days before.
Would have sold another 100 if Casey didn't stop selling them after he sells out. But thank you to everybody and to Chad and to all you wonderful people, to all the other content creators out there. Everybody except for Ricky J. Mark. Thank you guys so much, and we will see you guys next season. Shout out to Face Steel Taylor. Homie, subscribe to Tier 1. Next year is the year for Jimmy G Buckets. The G stands for guts. So love you guys.
Never in doubt.
Never in doubt. Never in doubt. Yes. Somebody says shout out to Ethan and Ethan. Season 9 in the books, baby.